You're listening to
Wrestling to the Max.
Alert. Clear all channels.
This is an exclusive.
How you like that?
And your hosts, Gary Vaughn, Sean Garmer, and Paul Vieser.
King of Sport. New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Hello and welcome to another Wrestling Max Extra where we are talking New Japan G1 Climax nights 8 through 10 as everybody will get to enjoy a little bit of a day off today, and they go back to the action on August 3rd with the A block again. And of course joining me here to break it down, Mr. Paul Vieser.
Always fun to do these shows, Sean. I love G1 time.
Yeah, I mean, again, lots of talk of everybody just sort of being disappointed by this year's G1. We're at the halfway point now. I mean, it was always going to be hard for them to top even last year's with the talent involved. I mean, do you kind of feel like they had to come down from the super plane they were on eventually, and you were going to get one of these?
I mean, I imagine so. There's no reason this couldn't have been great. You've had some uneven performances from a lot of guys you wouldn't expect it from. And I think you've had more people mailing it in on certain nights than you have in the past. Just because there's a lot of guys in here who simply don't have as much to prove or as much to really gain from having just a middling performance like some of these other guys do. So, I mean, really, I think 2014's probably been the best one in recent memory, but last year's was good too. But this one's been okay.
Right, I really enjoyed last year's, and of course, 13 and 14 were just amazing. I think also the format being changed is it makes different. Of course, I've not watched, other than night one, I've really not watched any of the undercards, so I can't really speak on that. But, I mean, yeah, you kind of had this sort of middling feeling for some of these, and I don't blame people at all. A bit for feeling like, oh hey, these things haven't been as good as in the past or whatever. And yeah, but I think people also have these really high expectations sometimes for these, that they're going to be like every show, every match is going to be knocked out of the park, and not every show can really do that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, these guys are only human. They can only give you so much every single night. And I mean, obviously you expect the world every time you see a lot of these guys step into the ring. But, they're, like I said, they're human. They need breaks just as much as we do. And I can understand taking a few nights off here or there. There's one guy on here who I'm really surprised at how often he's been doing that with. But we'll get to that as we dive into these reviews.
Yeah, and what's funny is we'll get, especially with night 8 and night 9, what a contrast you get perhaps the best night of the tournament all around, and then on the next night you get probably the worst night. So
right.
It's almost kind of funny the way that, and then these are obviously two different blocks too. So it's a neat contrast to see in both of these blocks how they can be so different. So let's get started with that night 8, and starting off with I'm sitting here. Way down So, night 8, we started off with the Toriyano special, taking on a Tomohiro Honma. And, yeah, this was very lifeless, I want to say. Like, I just really didn't feel much out of this. I'm one of those that don't really mind Yano so much. But I prefer when he's in the middle of the show. Like, when he's starting off the show, it automatically kind of gives me this different feeling towards the match.
Well, when Yano starts a night of G1 action, I always think to myself, it can only get better from here. And usually 10 times out of 10, you're right. So, they kept us brief. Yano's tricks work better on certain guys. Honma's not really one of those I feel like it works with, but Yano ends up getting a victory here, which is, whatever, I guess.
Yeah, Yano gets the win. I mean, it's not like, again, we've talked about this of, Hanma's sort of been just a guy since he had the win and all that, and then he lost the tag titles, and it's very hard to feel for him at this point sometimes, and unless they're doing that right match, you're just kind of like, okay, well, there's Honma, and there's Honma,
Yep.
But we do move on to somebody that has been absolutely killing it. Two guys that have been really good, and Yoshihashi has been outstanding in this tournament so far. One of the, I'm going to try to do this thing in between the nights, in between this one day off that we have, less as we're at the halfway of trying to rank, where the performers are right now. And for me, Yoshihashi's got to be at the top of just every time he comes out there, he delivers. He's working hard. And then Evil's doing the same thing. He's working hard. And these two went on, and they had a very good match with each other. I love the Yoshihashi countering the Evil, the STO, into that butterfly lock, and they had to really make that a big deal of Evil getting to those ropes. And Yoshihashi this is one of the wins that I thought Yoshihashi would have, because it's great for him to beat another Los Ingobernables guy and then go into what we think will happen, which is him having a match with Sonata on the final show. What do you think about this here for Yoshihashi?
I think Yoshihashi was great in this. I just think Evil was a hair better. Evil, he really held this match together well. It's plotted out very well. The work is smart, and they have a great finishing stretch. But Evil's heel mannerisms, even if you look at from where he was at this time last year, has just come leaps and bounds. Like, he's gotten so good very quickly since coming back from Excursion and Ring of Honor, and man, I really loved him in this match. He's hard hitting, he's bullying Yoshihashi, and Yoshi's having to pretty much fight back with everything he's got just to get the win. And I loved this. I thought this was really good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I mean, I agree with you. Evil's he was very good here too, and you had Yuji Nagata against Kazuchika Nakajima, and this was Nakajima has embraced being the heel now after so many shows where he's tried to get the crowd behind him, didn't work, they didn't care for him, he's the Noah guy, they weren't going to cheer for him, and he was just a total asshole to Yuji Nagata here, very much like Shibata before he gained the respect, and so it was sort of being worked that way. Nakajima was just totally being a bastard and taking Nagata down. Nagata was trying to do whatever he could, and there was a point where like Nakajima was just slapping him, so Nagata's like, we're not doing this today. And he just slaps the holy hell out of him. Just, such fantastic stuff. And, Nakajima winds up winning, but damn, Nagata, using some of that anti-aging serum that he has, and brought back some of the clock.
He found something out there. I don't know what it is, but he's found something. And we've seen Nakajima hit hard during this tournament. I don't think we've seen him hit harder than any other time in this tournament so far. Nagata, I don't know what's holding him together, whether it's duct tape or prayers or just old man angriness, but he's lucky to have a chest. These chops were just, so hard. There's a lot of hard knees. Nakajima, gracefully puts him away with the PK Brainbuster combo, but God, this was, if you like the hard-hitting, strong style stuff, this is it on the full display here, and you should go check this out. Nakajima is just impressive. Really, really impressive.
Yeah, this was Nakajima's best performance, I thought, against Nagata here, and these two just worked well together. And again, it's very similar to what they did with Shibata he uses, the PK like Shibata does. So it all works well. And Nagata afterwards was still having some words to say to Nakajima. So very interesting. And not just totally outdoing them in the next match. My lord, Michael Elgin and Kenny Omega. Of course, these two have the history of this is their third match, third singles match. Of course, the other two being for the IWGP Intercontinental Championship, and one of them being a ladder match. These two just, man, they went at it, and it's even got so crazy that we're stealing finishers now. I love it when it gets so heated that we're stealing finishers, with Elgin doing the one wing angel and Omega doing the Elgin bomb, and just great stuff. And I really enjoyed it. They kicked this thing up a total big notch, and Elgin wins, so no rematch here for Omega.
Thank God. I almost like this more than the ladder match. These guys, they really went out there and put on a great show. They play off their earlier matches in the beginning here. They work the usual stuff that you see in the beginning of these kinds of matches, and then they turn the corner and just start murdering each other with all the big moves they can muster. It's great. Elgin bomb, awesome. Stealing the one-winged angel, awesomer. I mean, Elgin's been amazing in this tournament. We're talking about top performers in the G1 so far. Elgin's definitely top 3.
Oh yeah, Michael Elgin has been fantastic, and just every match he brings it. Doesn't matter what's going on. He's motivated. He's going. He doesn't take those nights off, and he wins. Happy for him to keep going, and just that reverse Rana too by Omega was pretty nasty. I don't know what it is about Goto having to. Everybody has to work on the outside at least once during the match. We have to have the count out spot, but it's like every single G1 match that has to be the beginning of the damn match.
It's a real because Larry is not a fan of it at all over at 401, and him calling it the Ghetto Manded grab ass is just. I laugh every fucking time. I really do. It's so funny.
Yeah, I mean, they do try to divvy it up, or whatever, change up what they try to do on these. But yeah, it's the ghetto special, as Larry also terms it at times. And it totally is, because it's the same thing in last year's G1 too. A lot of this going to the outside stuff. So again, another great match after that. Probably what could have been the best match of in contention for best match of the tournament of Elgin and Omega. You get the guys that started their feud at last year's G1, where Shibata was having none of Naito, and every single night that Shibata had something to do with Naito, he was letting Naito have it. And so this match, Naito, again, he's been very smart throughout this G1 of finding the limb that is injured and working it. And he does it here again, of working the two body parts that Shibata has injured is the shoulder and one of the knees. So he's either working something on the shoulder or he's working the knee. And very deliberate in what he's doing. And then Shibata just gets these hope spots here and there. And then Naito gets more and more cocky every time, and that cockiness undoes him at the end as Shibata takes that one moment and turns it into a win. Just beautiful stuff. Well done, well told story, I thought. Great match for these two.
The thing, we talk about a lot of great ending stretches throughout this G1 so far, and this is another really great example. Shibata escapes the Destino with that big headbutt and goes for a sleeper, but then Naito stops him in his tracks by cranking on that injured arm you were talking about, and Shibata screams so loud, I'm pretty sure you probably could have heard it 2 towns over from that arena. And yeah, it's so good. These are really smart workers. this is probably a title feud come next year, because I'm still thinking Naito's walking out of this climax with the trophy and the title shot, and I'm sure Shibata will have moved on to something by then that counts as title contender. So looking forward to, and maybe this is a look in the crystal ball for what we get next year in 2017.
Yeah, I mean, this is your younger generation. These are the two guys that you're going to want carrying the torch. With Okada, coming into the future years of New Japan, because at some point Tanahashi's going to have to, move along, and you're going to be basing it around these three guys. So you really need, and the good thing is too, these two have drawn well every time that they've sort of had matches together. So that's another plus for them. So that's your night 8. Since we do have another Block B show, I'll do the standings at the end of night 10. But night 9, I sort of did not really get to watch because I had to pick and choose because I was watching this during Raw as well. So I had to try to rush through and at least get 2 of these nights done. From everything that I read and from just people online talking, this was perhaps the worst night as far as cumulative matches. As far as just how good they were and everything else. But you had Tama Tonga defeating Tomohiro Ishii here in a good match. Perhaps Tama Tonga's best match so far with Ishii.
I would definitely say so. There's not real there's a mismatch here because obviously Tonga is full of energy and he's working that frantic pace that we've become used to in this tournament, and Ishii is Ishii wanting to headbutt the bejesus out of you every chance he gets. And so it works really well. Tonga's moving around, sort of hitting moves. He's hitting headbutts and strikes here, but every time he headbutts Ishii, it only pisses him off and throws some big move at him, just completely take him out of it. But finally, after so many counters of the gun stun by Ishii, Tonga finally hits it and gets the victory. And yeah, it's a good match. It's my favorite match on this show, which is kind of sad because we're only going downhill from here. But I really enjoyed this. It's a big win for Tonga, and hopefully he can really build off this going forward because this is a guy who still needs to have that 1 or 2 really good matches to show that he can hang around and get the fans back on his side.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I'm glad that Tonga's finally starting to have good matches here, as I'm sure there will be a couple people in the group that will blast me for not liking more of the Tonga's matches, but the Okada match where I thought Tonga was really the one that stood out because it's another one of those nights where Okada was sort of sleepwalking. Mm-hmm. And here I thought this was a little bit of Ishii being Ishii and being the consistent great guy that he is, and of course Tonga bringing it as well. You get Sonata and Bad Luck Fale, and Fale beats Sonata. Not what you would think, considering, Sonata's got that big win, and he's sort of just been around.
Hasn't really done anything since that big win. I can understand not wanting him to beat Okada, that's fine, but letting him beat Fale would have been really huge, especially if he would have gotten him to tap. But they seem like they want to do what they usually do with Fale in this tournament, and that's keep him looking strong like the giant big man that he is, which is okay. But when you have a guy like Sonata, who you're very clearly wanting to do something with in this tournament, and he loses here, I think this is a big misstep. That being said, it's not awful. I think Sonata has some flashes of chemistry with Fale throughout this, but it's nothing super great or anything like that. Fale wins with a grenade in the Bad Luck Fall, but I don't know. I think I was taken out of this by the choice of having Fale go over here personally.
Yeah, it just seemed weird to me when I saw the result. I was like, okay, Fale winning one of these, all right. So you have Togi Makabe, the only undefeated guy left in the tournament at this point, against Naomichi Marufuji, who has been also one of the, I sort of would rank him in your top 3 as far as performers in this G1. He's been fantastic. And a lot of people were down on him and still want to be down on him. And I think part of it is also just they don't want to get that. They don't want to separate the Naomichi Marufuji from Noah and separate him from, hey, you know what, he can do something else. And he can be great in this by himself without looking at his Noah work. And again, he delivers here with Makabe. Seems like they just go at each other, and Marufuji wins.
This is another one of those hard-hitting, strong-style things about who pretty much has the bigger dick out of both guys. Lots of chops, lots of big suplexes, lots of the stuff you usually expect. And Marufuji wins with the Shiranu. But, this was fine. Makabe, this probably is the best we've seen him so far in this tournament, I would say. He looked motivated. Marufuji wanted to get something out of him, and he did. And Marufuji, putting that blemish on there is going to matter, I think, going down the road. But it has that feeling of an epic match. It just never gets there. And, it's unfortunate because you could tell they were really going for something to turn the show around, and they never really hit it.
It kind of sucks. But, I mean, it is good to hear that he had his best match. Marufuji pulled the best match out of Makabe from the entire run of matches that he's had. So that's a plus. And speaking of a guy that's been has woken himself up from this against a guy that's sort of been, it's weird. He's your IWGP Heavyweight Champion. He's walking through matches, Paul, and especially one here against Tenzan, where you think this would be a huge match. I mean, this is a guy that, he's lost some. That maybe he lost more than he should have at this point. But this should have been a big, huge thing with Tenzan and that story that's going on.
I completely agree. This is one of those matches where Okada really needed to show up big. And I understand you got a lot of big matches near the end of this tournament, whatever. But Tenzan's story is one of the things that's keeping people coming to these Block A shows. The people go frickin' nuts for the guy when he's coming out now, and it's really cool to see that they care and they're so invested in this. As I'm not a big Tenzan fan, it's kind of there for me. I do enjoy it. I think it makes his matches much more interesting, whether he's going to win or not. But, Okada's pretty much sleepwalking through this until you get to that finishing stretch is a real downer, real downer, especially for somebody who can have, and has shown he can have really good matches with these guys still. And this could have been a match that turned around the show if Okada showed up, and he didn't, and it really, really sucks. But Okada does get the win here, and I'm disappointed at the end of this one.
Yeah, and it seemed like people were disappointed in the Hiroshi, Tanahashi, and Hirooki Goto match too, because again, Tanahashi goes back to a match that he had with Goto in 2007. It says was his favorite match for a while, and sort of one of these where it felt like guys were doing stuff, and then the ending happened.
Yeah, I mean they sort of, I don't want to say they short out the shoulder work because Goto does focus on it here and there, but it's very much a greatest hits match, really, is what it feels like. And it's nothing super great or anything like that. I still think it was fine. I mean, they make Goto still look good here as it takes a pair of high-five flows to put him away. But it's like a house show main event. They put in some work. They put in enough, I think, to turn in a good performance, just nothing great. And I mean, unfortunate, but Tanahashi gets another win on the belt, which means more for, I think, his storyline going forward than anything that happened in this match.
Well, that's the end of Night 9, and that'll be the end of Block A coverage for this set of shows that we're doing on this trio of shows that we're talking on this extra here. So you got Makabe and Okada tied with 8 points at the top. You got Marufuji with 6 points, and you got a whole bunch of guys with 4 points after that. You got Tenzan, Goto, Sonata, Ishii, Fale, Tonga, and Tanahashi so far, all with 4 points. So this block very much in parity right now, sort of. And you'd think that Makabe is coming back down. So, yeah.
Yeah, Makabe is probably going to start trending down. Tenzan's probably going to string another couple of wins here to keep him in the hunt for the finals. I don't know if Okada's going to lose again, but he might. He's still has got Tanahashi. He's still got Fale, of course. And he's got, I think doesn't he still have Ishii? I think he still has
Yeah, he
Ishii.
still has Ishii, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a couple of big roadblocks in his way towards the end here. I wouldn't be, Marufuji probably still going to be in the hunt. I really hope they keep Goto in the hunt because that's a storyline worth following. They have a lot of guys here who you could see fluctuate up and down. I don't know if Tonga is going to get another win in this one, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Tanahashi is going to go on his big string of wins here, you would assume, and I would not be surprised Tanahashi beats Okada there on that last one, and then they get one last hurrah match aside from that. But so we get into night 10, which Paul, you said you have not been able to watch yet.
Correct.
So we had Kazuchika Nakajima against Yoshihashi. This was very good. The best match on the show. Again, Yoshihashi delivering, and again Nakajima delivering. They both have been really good. Nakajima was just a total asshole here. Just totally taking down Yoshihashi at any time that he could. Again, Yoshihashi getting out of the brainbuster and then just doing his big lariat that he does and everything else, and he finishes it off with the karma, and he wins. He beats Nakajima, gets another 2 points. Great opener to the show. Just Yoshihashi is great in these opening spots because the crowd gets behind him. And they really want him to win. And so, especially against a guy like Nakajima, who's really embraced being the heel and being the dick. And just another very good match between these two here.
This one surprised me a little. I didn't think Yoshi would win this one. I thought they would give this one to Nakajima, but it seems like it's a good match. Yoshihashi continues to put on those great opening spots as you just mentioned, and like you said, another guy you can put in your top 3 as far as performers go. But man, this one surprised me looking at the results. I'll tell you that much.
So we move on to Yuji Nagata and Michael Elgin, and this is one of those I feel bad because if the crowd was into this more, this would have been really, really good. The problem is a lot of stuff they were doing, and it was really good, including Nagata hitting a top rope exploder. And there was a lot of them going to the top rope between Big Mike missing the Big Mike flow and him missing another move from up there, and then Nagata hitting that exploder I talked about, and then Nagata having to suffer through a Death Valley driver on the apron. Jeez. I don't know if you should be doing that with Nagata at the age he's at, but Elgin wins. But man, it just felt like there was no juice in what was going on with these two, which kind of sucks.
That's really unfortunate because I could see this being a Intercontinental title match down the road that headlines one of the smaller pay-per-views or maybe something else left in this year. Just because Nagata's been doing really well in this tournament. They've trusted him to have those Intercontinental title main events before with Nakamura, obviously in the past. So it's unfortunate that there was something missing here because I really feel like this is a good pairing, and it seems like another classic Elgin match where they just want to go out there and beat the bejesus out of each other for 15 minutes.
Yeah, there was a lot of that too. And then we get the total surprise of Toru Yano in about a minute. Beating Katsuri Shibata after he has him hit the exposed turnbuckle. He doesn't get the pin with that, and then he gets a low blow and the cradle for the win over Shibata, and Shibata loses to Toru Yano.
I would have been okay with Shibata hitting a running drop kick PK, and then that spells it for Yano to sort of just put an exclamation point on it, but Yano's got to continue to be in that hunt, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of sucks. You just had Shibata beat Naito, and Naito just wanted nothing to do with Yano and was going to put him in his place, and Shibata just... I kind of get it. Shibata is really hurt, and they were asking him questions about if he's still going to be able to get through this. He might be having the Nakamura run where... he's hurt, but he's having to continue to do this. And, maybe they wanted to give him a little bit of time. That's the only thing I can think of. Yano gets a win, and We'll see how many wins he actually gets for this tournament when it's all said and done. You get Kenny Omega here against Evil. You would expect that Kenny Omega would beat Evil, and he does with a really awesome reverse Rana again in the One Wing Angel. But just a lot of Omega really sort of knowing what Evil's going to do and being able to counter it. And then, of course, Evil also doing his homework and countering Omega as well. The stuff on the floor actually was actually pretty interesting because you had Omega block the chair thing that Evil does against the pole all the time. And then so Evil got him back and suplexed Omega into the chair, and Omega sold it like he just died and broken his back, which was awesome. Just like the way that he just he's like laying just with his back there, just shaking, was amazing. And you got a lot of Kenny chants. So people were behind Kenny Omega in this match. And, I thought because Evil had gotten chants at one point, just shows you, I guess, how much they do not care so much for Nakajima. A lot of Kenny Omega chants, so people were totally behind him here.
I mean, Omega's the only guy out of the Bullet Club, maybe outside the Bucks, who has any steam in New Japan. Everybody else has sort of fallen to the wayside or is struggling to find something. And Evil's evil. He's great. He, I'm sure he went out there and just beat the bejesus out of Omega like he always does. And shame he comes up short, but Kenny, I thought Kenny would have a big tournament. Certainly going to be in that hunt for the runner-up spot, I think. But it seems like that spot is ready-made for Elgin at this point.
Yeah, and I think it should be. It's your Intercontinental Champion. You kind of don't want him to be too far down the pole, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then you talk about a match that it just felt like this thing went on forever. And it's sad because it's Tomoaki Honma. It's Tetsuya Naito. You'd think these two would be able to really hammer it home. And I'm kind of with Larry. Towards like that last 5 minutes or so, I was just kind of like, oh my God, can we just end this match, please? Like, get this over with. I know Naito's winning. Just, come on now.
Yeah, 20 minutes for a Honma match seems way too long. Unless it's a tag match. Honma really probably has that sweet spot of 12 to 15 minute matches, and because you can only pull that babyface in peril or whatever he's working for so long. And it seems like there's a lot of knee work that gets ignored, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, and it's weird because Naito's been really good about that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on Honma as well for kind of shrugging that off, and that's an issue. But, not everything's going to be perfect on that end.
Right.
Well, that's going to do it for our looks at all three nights. So go ahead and give you the standings now here. So you got Nakajima, technically in first place based on, I think, on head-to-head matchups or whatever. Tied with Nagata, Yoshihashi, Elgin, and Kenny Omega, all on 6 points. And you got Honma, Naito, and Toru Yano, all with 4 points. Naito has one more loss than Honma and Naito. And you also got Shibata there on 4 points. And you get Evil bringing up the rear with 2. So, still lots of stuff left to go here as we get back into the A block on August the 3rd. Some big matchups still coming up, as Paul noted some of them. So, that night 11, night 12, all that's going to be some fun to certainly watch. But that's going to do it here for us talking G1 nights 8 through 10. Of course, we'll continue to give you some looks at all the nights as they continue to happen. And, of course, subscribe to that W2M network. You can get all of our shows, not just the ones that, we all do here. And, remember that we've separated the Raw review, so it's out there by itself. And, of course, our Part 1 and Part 2s of the regular Wrestling the Max shows, which will have our Ring of Honor. And we're talking championships we want to see back in WWE as our topic as well as the news. Going on that Super J Cup big card came out, and oh my God, talk about orgasmic going on.
Sweet Lord.
So, Yeah, but we'll talk about that as well on the regular episode. So if you want to hear us talk about all that, you can find it on the download along with this. So, all right, until the next set of shows have happened, for Paul and for myself, we'll see you later, everybody.
Take it easy, guys.